Today, I want to talk to you about why it is when you're really, really wanting to change and you're doing the things that need to be done. You're attacking the situation with therapy. You're trying to understand. You're trying hard to do your best. And or trying hard to get to a different part or level of yourself, and you just can't. It's just not available. And maybe you're not even thinking like that yet. Maybe you're thinking, I got to stop doing that. I got to control myself. If I just force myself to do that or not do that, then I would feel better. But this is fixing things the wrong way. And it's also fixing the wrong thing. So I'm going to demonstrate that to you with a story about a client of mine. She had a trauma, and mostly when people deal with traumas, they want to get over the bad feeling of it, which is really important because that bad feeling can linger and affect our current situation. But there's more to healing from a trauma than just getting over it or having it not um, come through at other similar moments. There's much more to that. And one aspect is that a trauma buries the part of us that couldn't respond differently because of the situation, because we were too young, for example. So there was a natural innate response in us, but we couldn't act that way. We couldn't say that. We couldn't respond that way. So that gets buried inside of us, and often over the years and the decades, that part is buried in other situations where it's not a trauma, where we could release that part of ourselves, that alive, stand up, powerful, more powerful part of ourselves. So it becomes a pattern. So with this client, with this woman, she's really smart and is very hardworking on herself. It hasn't gotten her very far until we started working together. She had a lot of difficult experiences with therapists that weren't listening, that didn't see her, and a number of other things, which I won't go into. But we were working with something that kept coming up. And it was something that happened when she was a child, where she was in a dance recital, and they had put on the costume. She was a little girl, and they put on the costume, and it was way too tight. But she was afraid or didn't feel like she could say anything. Now, this is part of her history that people weren't listening to her, people didn't see her, and so it kind of came naturally to her to not say anything and kind of hope it would go away. That was how she had been adapting to difficulties in her life, and it was working on some levels, obviously not working on others. So this is how she approached it with this too tight costume, but she really was having trouble breathing, and she was young, so she didn't know what to do. uh, and and she just lived with it. She just stayed with it, and it was very much suffering, and it left a very bad taste in her mouth, a very bad scar. Welcome, everybody. I'm very glad to see you. So what we in the work that I do, the deep transformation method, we worked with it in a specific way, but I want you to hear like how she was trying to fix the wrong things. So in the work I do with my clients, it's not mental, it's not intellectual, it's the whole self, because you cannot solve you can't create deep transformation just from the head, because we're much more than that. So what's happening, thank you for the hearts, what's happening is that when we first started working on this, she started trying to fix it with what she thought was the right idea. So she was the costume was too tight. So she thought, well, maybe in the work maybe she could put a pin in it, or make other adjustments to it, or somehow magically fix it, and then the trauma would go away. But but when she allowed her deeper self to lead her in, which is the way that I work, in a very unique way, which I'm not going into because it's just too complicated to explain. But I want you to hear how she went from trying to fix the problem, like with a safety pin, literally, but for her to find a way to fix her outfit so she could breathe. When she wasn't controlling how she was working with this trauma, what happened was she got into a situation where another mother who was there, who had 12 children, absolutely knew what to do to help this little girl who was like suffocating, and fix the whole thing. Now, why is this different? So why is it different? Because one thing, this client, this woman, was able to, for her, now this isn't the answer for everyone, but for her, she was able to ask and receive help. In this deep work, she asked and was seen and taken care of, and then felt better. And because it was deeply experienced in every cell of her body, as if it were actually happening right now, it changed the neurochemicals in her body around that situation. And what I always ask after I've worked with trauma is I ask people to dip in lightly, because I don't want to go back and reactivate it right away, right? I want it to have time to settle. So I dip in lightly and tell me, how do you feel about that X trauma, that particular situation, the way that, how do you feel about that right now? And they check in and they say, I don't feel it. It's not there. And it stays not there. But not just crossing it out, but then, for example, she began to feel this powerful part of herself now in the present that could ask for and receive help, something very, very, very new for her. And not as a thought, not as an idea, but the, like, coursing through her, like the ability, the innate ability had come back to her to, of course, a healthy child would be able to ask for and receive help. But that wasn't all of it. And you see, the other thing is that I didn't know this. I didn't know how her work was going to come out. I didn't know that asking and receiving help was the important thing for her to experience in this deep work. And then, of course, what happened was her whole body calmed down. I didn't know that. That's not an intellectual knowing. It makes sense in retrospect. But every single person is unique, and every trauma is unique. And what needs to come through? Well, what would be smarter? Some other person's head, excuse me, your head, your thinking mind, or a deep, 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 wise part of yourself that was buried during that trauma, but is still there. And once you have access to it, it's so interesting and surprising and beautiful what comes out instead. It's beautiful, and it's so much more than you would ever think. So what I'm umbrella talking about here is, again, that a lot of the reasons why change doesn't happen at the deep level that you wish it would is because we're fixing the wrong thing. And in this case, she was trying to fix her costume in the memory by herself, so she was using herself to fix it. But that, even though it makes sense, intellectual sense, wasn't what she needed in that moment. Do you see how different it is? It's not what we're asking. It's not what we're thinking would be helpful, but it's a deeper place. And the deeper place is the one that I work with in my clients, is something that has been buried, usually for decades, but is still there. And it's a lot of the reason why maybe you keep coming to things like this, because there's some piece of you that still knows there's more of you that wants to come out. So I don't know if you can see it, but I'll just, we have some neighbor dogs that have been coming over and hanging out. And can you see it? I don't know if you can see it. Anyway, they are, let's see if I can do this. They are literally sitting here listening. All right, they're very sweet. Thank you for listening. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate it. I'll see you on the next Wednesday with Wendy.